Welcome back. So my granddad was turning 90 and my aunt Angela asked me to build a replica of the old Austin Mini which he drove them round in as children. So, because I only had 2 days to complete this task, I chose this Hella version. As you can see here, it's 1/43rd, so a very mini, and got straight to work. Has a left-hand drive dash, being a French kit, so I wanted to snip that off and move it to the central position, as it was a slightly earlier version of the Mini which they had. Use this narrow file like so to try and smooth this down. And then filled that gap with some Mr. White putty. Left that for about a day to cure. Now the body here is quite nicely moulded, obviously though I need to remove this sprue. The grille and the front bumper, as well as the boot and the rear bumper, are separate parts which you can add at this point or add them later as I have done. Using some UMP sanding sticks to smooth down where the sprue was removed. I didn't have any reference pictures, but I knew that their version didn't have side markers, so those were snipped off and smoothed away like so. I sanded away any mould lines, then primed it in fine white from Tamiya, and then gave it 4 coats of TS16 yellow from Tamiya as well. The underside was done in matte black with some silver details, and then the wheel axles just went in like so. I chose not to paint them as you wouldn't see any of this detail once the wheels were on. The wheels are made up of 3 sections, 2 of them in matte black and then the central sort of hubs in silver. These don't actually resemble the Mini Light wheels on the box, so that's a bit of a slap on the wrist, Hella, I think. But then I have no intention of making these spin, so just a bit of poly cement, extra thin from Tamiya, secures these on nicely. Now for some reason this car has got the little transverse 4-cylinder engine, even though there's no way of looking at it once the body is all together. Suppose you could cut open the bonnet if you really wanted to. But there it is, in place, painted silver. The door cards were done in the same yellow, and then I used some Tamiya light blue acrylic, which is a matte, which I intended to do the interior. Spoke to my nan about some of the features. She said that it had a blue interior. Said if they could find any pictures they would have been in black and white, so this was the closest. Then added a bit of silver for some of the door features, and the interior here was done in that same blue, and the front seats fit in very nicely. Pretty happy with how the body looks. I added some silver details with some Revell acrylic, such as the door handles and around the window edges. This was a little bit difficult as there's no raised detail, so I just did the inside of the window trims like so, and also the chrome trim around the bottom of the car. The dashboard was painted black with the same light blue at the top and the bottom. Steering wheel in black and with a few silver details, such as around the instrument panel. This glues in place quite nicely. And I'm happy I was able to make it a right-hand drive. The door cards fit very well. This kit was originally tooled in 1979. I think it holds up quite well, especially for a 1/43rd kit. And there you can see that's all gone together, and then there's a couple of pins to secure that in the middle. The front and rear windows are supposed to be inserted at the same time, but the central sort of support had snapped, so I used some foam safe super glue to glue those in separately. It's then time for the side windows. Fitment here is a little bit rough, so you may want to sand away at some of these to help them fit as best as possible. Then the bodywork can be put over the top of the rest of the car. Make sure that those windows are glued first. And then I added a little bit of glue, just a little thin bit around the edge to fit the front bumper, which I've done in yellow, and then the grille in silver. And the same with the boot. Need to be very careful with these parts. Once that had secured, I then added the headlights, which are silver housings with a little clear headlight lens. Pretty good for 1/43rd scale in my opinion. The number plate is a separate part on the front, so you could leave it off if you wanted to. This was painted silver. The front and rear bumpers were also painted silver, but I used this very thin piece of styrene from the spares box to make these little overriders to go on the front and the back. My nan told me what the number plate was, I custom printed it and then fitted it to this aluminium tape to make it have the correct sort of metallic chrome effect that number plates had. I also added some old Austin decals to the boot and the bonnet, like so. The lights and indicators were painted in Tamiya clear red and orange with a little bit of silver on the back. Then these were glued into place with some foam safe super glue. I decided to use a little bit more aluminium tape for the fuel cap, as I didn't like the one supplied in the kit. And there we have it. I'm pretty pleased with how this turned out, and I think that it gives a pretty accurate representation of the classic Mini. My nanny and granddad were really happy to receive it, and it really reminded them of the time when my mum and her sisters and brother were children and they packed them all into the back for a day out. I will be making a 1/24th scale version of the original Mini at some point in the future. However, if you'd like to see my build of the new Mini, you can click the link appearing on the screen now. Thank you very much for watching. Please do leave a comment, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.